All right, welcome. So, over the last few weeks, we've been studying Norse mythology and ancient Egyptian mythology, and today we're fast forwarding into the modern era. Um, but we are making a pit stop first for an old timey documentary. If you haven't already watched it, I would like you to pause now and watch the um, spaghetti harvest video that's posted on this page before you continue. And once you have watched that, we'll get started. So 8 million people saw this video on a British news program on April 1st, 1957. 8 million people. Do you notice anything else about that fact? The news program aired on April 1st, April Fool's Day. It was a joke, but because it looked like a real news footage, because the announcer sounded like he knew what he was talking about, and because people believed what they were seeing with their own eyes, they believed that it was real. Hundreds of people called the BBC the next day to ask how they could grow their own spaghetti trees. The answer? Put a sprig of spaghetti in a can of tomato juice and hope for the best. So, a lot of ridiculous things make it into serious news programs on April Fool's Day, April 1st. And it's fairly easy to remember, hey, this is April 1st. Maybe I should be kind of skeptical about what I hear. But April 1st is not the only time that hoaxes make their way into the internet, into newspapers, onto TV shows, and into places where you might think that you can trust the information you're getting. Many people trust what they read on the internet and are not critical of the information they get. There are obvious problems with this. One of the wonderful things about the internet is that anybody can post information or their opinions to the internet. One of the terrible things about the internet is that anybody can post information or their opinions to the internet, so you can't necessarily trust what you read there. As this wonderful Abraham Lincoln quote says, don't believe everything you read on the internet just because there's a picture with a quote next to it. Obviously, Abraham Lincoln did not say that because Abraham Lincoln had no clue that such a thing as the internet would ever exist. But for just a split second, you might think, hey, that's rather wise because it looks real and it's next to a picture of somebody that you know existed. Our brains can play tricks on us, and so we need to be skeptical about what we read and what we hear. The Onion is a joke newspaper that is famous for publishing stories like Kitten thinks of nothing but murder all day. People who know what the Onion is don't take it seriously. They read the fake news articles to laugh at them. So when people saw that Kim Jong-un, the brutal dictator of North Korea, had been named the Onion's sexiest man alive for 2012, it was pretty obviously a joke. After all, it was in the Onion. And after all, the article also listed other winners of the award as another brutal dictator, Bashar al-Assad, and Bernie Madoff, a man who famously went to prison for swindling hundreds of people out of millions of dollars. Also, look at Kim Jong-un. Does he look like your idea of the sexiest man alive? Well, the people of North Korea did not understand that the Onion was a joke website. They saw this news article in what looked like a newspaper, and they got very excited that people, even in the United States, appreciate how wonderful and handsome their dictator was, and so they reported it as real news. It made the people who took this article seriously look foolish, but it didn't have real serious consequences. A lot of these hoaxes don't have serious consequences. Was anybody hurt by believing that spaghetti grows on trees in Switzerland? No. Was anybody hurt by believing that Kim Jong-un had been named the sexiest man alive? No. They looked foolish for it, but nobody was seriously harmed by it. But sometimes people can be led into believing harmful things that cause them to act in ways that hurt themselves or other people. For instance, a few years ago, a group of white supremacists who were dedicated to violence against Black people and to making sure that people of other races don't have equal rights, invented a fake website where they gave false information about Dr. Martin Luther King and told terrible lies about a man who worked tirelessly his life to ensure that people in the United States got equal rights. And that was harmful. It supported their arguments that white people are better than Black people, and it caused real hurt. Sometimes people post fake medical information. Sometimes they're being malicious, they're trying to hurt people, and sometimes people just don't know what they're talking about. But when your health is at stake, that can be dangerous for you or for other people. Sometimes political parties or governments will post untrue propaganda and try to persuade people to vote in a certain way or act in a certain way that can shift the entire government of a country and the course of world events. These can have serious consequences. On the other hand, sometimes the problem isn't that people believe what isn't true. Sometimes the problem is that nobody will believe the truth because the truth sounds fake, and that can cause problems too. The way that you can tell the difference between something that's reliable and something that's false is you need to use your brain, and you need to test what you are looking at or reading by asking yourself the 5 W questions. Who, what, when, where, and why? Who wrote or filmed or created this content? And is that person an expert? If you were looking for information about books and you came across a website by Ms. Menke, librarian, that would probably be a good website for finding information about books. If you're looking for information about treating cancer or a serious medical condition, don't go to a website written by a librarian. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert in that field. The second question you need to ask yourself is, what is the goal of the site? Some websites, some TV programs, some games are created because people want to sell you something. People want your money. Are those people then going to be invested in giving you good, factual, educational information, or are they mostly going to be interested in persuading you that you need to buy their potato chips or spend your money on the thing that they're selling? Some websites have the goal of educating you or of manipulating your emotions, making you angry, making you want to vote a certain way, making you want to laugh, and just entertaining you. If there's nothing wrong with a website that wants to make you laugh, but it might not be the best place to go if you're looking for serious information. Then you need to look at when the information was written and when it was updated. If you come across a website about computers that was written in 1995 and has not been updated since then, obviously it's not going to be very accurate. If you come across really any website that hasn't been updated in a long time, it's probably not going to be the most accurate source for you. Where does the information come from? So even though the internet is not a place, there are different types of websites. If you are getting a current event story off of a news website, that's probably pretty reliable. If you're getting a current event story off of a joke website like The Onion, that's not going to be quite so reliable. If you're getting scientific information from a news website, that might be somewhat reliable, but it's also not going to be probably the best source. The best source would be someplace that actually specializes in that field, a scientific institution or a university. And you also need to find out where you can get more information. Is this the only website on the internet that has this story? Because if so, it might not be reliable. If this is something that's true, that's really happened, you should be able to verify it with multiple sources. And last of all, you need to put all of these factors together and ask yourself why you do or do not believe that this is a trustworthy source. So next time, we are going to look in depth at two websites, Mike the Headless Chicken and Help Save the Endangered Pacific Northwest Tree Octopus. One of these sites may be real. One of these sites may be fake. Maybe they're both fake. Maybe they're both real. After all, the world is a very strange place.